13. You don't know what you want. Well, I could use a motorcycle hump. I'm not a big supporter of the dirt bike anyway. So.
It's time.
Pardon?
Would you care to hit the blue dot
All right.
this time? We're
I think
live.
we are live, all right. You guys all ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, December 11th. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Lawrence County Redevelopment Commission. Clock notes that it is slightly after 10 o'clock, which was our scheduled starting time. So we will call this meeting of the Redevelopment Commission to order. We have an agenda provided in front of us, suggested topics. Are there any suggestions for amendments or changes or additions to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, we'll go with this agenda, depending on what happens during the meeting. First item was called to order. Second item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November meeting. These minutes were distributed in advance of the meeting to the members of the Redevelopment Commission. I'd ask if anybody...
So moved.
We have a motion to approve as presented from Jack. Is there a second? Wally has seconded, so we've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Abstention, like sign. That motion passes 4-0. Next item on our agenda is an update on the Mitchell downtown building activity. And this is more specifically having to do with the RFP we had issued, seeking to find an appropriate consultant who could carry out an environmental assessment of the large yellow building downtown on the north side of Main Street. We'd received one response to our RFP. We decided to table the issue at our last meeting, take it under advisement. I'd ask now if anybody on the commission has any further thoughts or suggestions or comments regarding that response to the RFP we received. And I know Rex has got a lot of experience in this, so Rex, I would defer to you if you want to open the conversation.
Okay, like Jeff said, we tabled this last meeting because we really hadn't had time for any of the members of the commission to review the response that was given, that was submitted by Environmental Management Consultants out of Evansville. Since then, I have been able to go through it and look through it, and I had sent out an email to everyone. I think everyone got that, regarding my thoughts on it. They had, one of the things that obviously I looked at was to make sure that they had complied with all the requests that we had made within the RFP itself. And to the best that I could find, they did. The only one that they really didn't have a specific statement to was availability, which providing a statement for readiness, willingness, and ableness to complete the service. But there was other elements within the packet itself which actually covered that. They just didn't have a specific statement that said that availability. Experience-wise, this is a group that's been around for several years. The ones who would actually be doing the work on the ground would probably have maybe 2 or 3 years of experience behind them, but they would have another person that would be there along with them that's got, about a decade of experience, So I didn't find any problems with the experience part. What we are actually talking about, obviously, is we're talking solely about going in and doing an evaluation or an assessment of what is in the building that would be considered contaminants. So, we're looking for anything that would be a hazardous material. So that would include mold, but it would also include asbestos. It could include
Lead paint as well?
lead paint, and some of the light fixtures and some of the
Thermostats.
thermostats may have mercury. as part of the system. And all those are things that they would check for. Basically what they would do, it's usually about a one-day thing. They come in and they spend the entire day going through the building, and they would be taking samples. They take samples of the wall material, they take samples of any of the flooring, especially if it was tile flooring. Ceiling samples. Now, some of that ceiling in there is metal, so they wouldn't be taking samples of that. They usually try to get up on the roof to try to take some roof samplings. I don't know how well that's going to be, for them to do. Typically what they do is they would send a drone up to see what the roof looks like first, as to whether or not they think it's stable enough for somebody to be safely up there to be able to take some sampling. Then once they've taken all the samples and they catalog all that as well, like keep track of where everything comes from. Then they send it off. In their case, they send it off to a contracted lab. They don't have an in-house lab, and most of these environmental groups do not. They usually contract it out, so that's not uncommon. And so they send it out to a lab, and where the lab would go through all those materials and determine if there's any contaminants there. And once they do that, then they can isolate where those are at. They can go back to where they've mapped everything and go to the sampling that is contaminated and go and locate that on the building floor plans and mark it. And that's what we're asking for. Basically, there's no remediation that's going to be taking place, so nothing is going to be removed from this. It's just basically going in and mapping where it's at so that we know where the contaminants are at. That way they're somewhat isolated. We would know what rooms are, the most potential for contamination. And then if it is determined that we want to do something further as far as remediation is concerned, that would be with a different group. This group could help, find someone, a contractor. I'm sure they work with various contractors that do this all the time, that go in and do the remediation and remove that. But we're specifically only talking about with EMC, we're just completely talking about the assessment only. I've never worked with EMC before, so I can't really, give a full-throated, say, well, I've worked with them, they do a great job. I've never worked with them, so I don't know. But they've been around for quite a while. It seems like they do a lot of work in the southern part of Indiana, especially in the Princeton and Evansville area, because they're from Evansville, so that's, that's where they're probably going to do the greatest part of their work. Looks like they're kind of wanting to branch out a little further into other areas of the southern part of the state. I don't have any problems with what I've read or what I've investigated with them. Now I know that there's been some questions regarding price. They submitted what we asked for, which was basically, when it came to the price part, provide a schedule of fees, which they did. They provided the schedule of fees and other related charges as required to do this work. They provided that, but as to give you an estimate as to what it would actually cost, they couldn't do that without coming and actually looking at the building, and even then, they couldn't give you a hard number, because they don't know what's there. It is a fairly large building, so, I'm looking at it on the high side. I'm being kind of liberal with what I think it would be, but I think it would probably be somewhere around $15,000, and to get it done. Could be a little less than that, but I think, if we're in the ballpark, somewhere in there. But even if we had them come here and look at the building, I don't think that they could give us a real true estimate of what the cost is, going to be, how much lab costs are going to be, It's really up to you, the commission as a whole, as to what you want to do, if we want to contact them. If you wanted to specifically ask them questions, you know, because there's a lot of questions you might have that I can't answer because I've worked with these kind of groups before, but, you know, they know a lot more about, you know, the current environmental rules and everything that's going on. That changes a lot, and they're up to date on that, which I'm not. So we could probably arrange. I think Jeff even, you know, said we could do it, you know, like a Zoom type, you know, meeting where we could not have to have them travel all the way up here, and we could interview them that way if you would like to do that, and have you know, have questions for them regarding. We could talk to them a little bit about the building, you know, give them some. I don't know. Do you have floor plans? Does the city have floor plans for that building? No. Okay. So I don't even know what the actual size of the building is. I mean, to be able to tell them the full scope of what's there. But this is what we've talked about doing. We've not talked about doing anything more to this point, so we're only talking about the assessment part. So if you want to move forward, I think what we've discussed before is we would be okay with doing an assessment, and we're doing it more for the benefit of the city than we are for the owner. We would have to get the owner's permission to be able to do this, and I don't know how cooperative the owner would be, because actually in some cases, you know, depending on what they find there, you know, it could put more liability on the owner, you know, once it's found and they know it's there, because it will be in record. So sometimes people who own buildings don't want that, you know, out there.
So how would we proceed then? I mean, we actually have to go to the owner and get written.
Typically,
Will it have to be like notarized?
Typically, yes. They ask for it to be signed and witnessed. So typically, a notary, you know, would be.
I mean, I kind of feel like we have agreed, and we haven't yet, but I mean, just in the general conversation that this is part that we are going to do, and so.
Well, I think
I would think we'd have to
I don't think we want to contract with EMC before we have permission from the owner. We would contact EMC and say, yes, we've went through, you know, what you have sent. We're accepting of what you went and sent to us. We're interested in having you do this work. We have not approached the owner yet to ask for permission. And do you have a specific form that you use for this, and get the form for that? Typically they do. Most of them have their forms that they want used in getting permission, and then take the form to the owner and get that permission signed and notarized and get it back to them. At that point, we can decide, you know, about doing a contract. It's not as quick as a process as we would like to have, but it's what it is, you know. So
You gotta follow the playbook.
As far as a Zoom meeting with the people, I'm not familiar with this kind of a project at all. I'd have to rely on Rex's expertise.
Me too.
My sense is that Rex has done a good job analyzing it. I just leafed through it. I didn't go nearly the depth that Rex did. I think they're a firm that would do the job for us. I'm not too worried about that. I do agree that we don't want to take action until we've got approval to be in the building to carry it out. And so, Mayor, I guess we'd ask if you would be willing to contact the owner. In the meantime, I will contact the company, ask if they've got the form, and if I can get it from them, I'll provide it to you. Find out what the owner feels. Make him aware that he's got liability with that building no matter what. And so he's got to decide if he's going to maintain control of it or if he's ready to give it up. And if he gives it up and turns it over to you guys, then we need your permission to get in, and/or then we need to look at taking that additional step we talked about of setting up a third-party LLC entity that can take the ownership from the city, although ultimately it falls back on the city anyway until there's a true alternate owner. So that may not be necessary, but that's for you to think about, Don. So, okay. All right, so I don't know if we need
I was
a
getting ready
vote.
to ask about a motion. Does that need to be in a form of a motion?
Do you want to make it a conditional motion, motion to approve using this company, provided that they can give us a form and provided that we get ownership approval? Something like that? That would save us, it could save us a month instead of waiting until January
I
for the
think.
next steps.
Yeah.
I'll second his amended motion.
All right, okay. So we've got a motion from Wally,
Is that good with you, Rex?
seconded by Jack, to contact the company, ask for a form, let them know that we will sign a contract with them if we get ownership approval on the form. And then work with the mayor to see if we can get that ownership approval. Does that sound right to everybody?
Yeah.
Sounds
And you
official
might-
to me.
I'm getting it written out.
In the time when you're talking to them, contract, you might ask them if they would be willing to do a
Do
Zoom,
visit, oh, Zoom or a visit, okay.
Zoom visit for us to be able to, ask questions, in advance of that contract being signed.
Good point.
Okay. So, contact the company, let them know, we'll work with them if we get ownership approval and see if they'll do a Zoom call in the meantime to answer questions. Michelle, you and I will make sure we get this all written out in the minutes. All right, we've got that motion on the floor. Is there any further conversation regarding the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like signs. Abstentions, like sign. That motion passes 4-0. Okay, so we got that done. I hadn't talked to Mr. Burton about coming today, and I see he's not here, so we won't take up any conversation on the potential of infrastructure extensions out to the potential hotel site at this time, I guess, unless anybody wants to bring it up, but I don't think we have further information. What we were really waiting on was some estimate of the costs so that we could start thinking through how that might be something we can engage in. So, does that sound fair to everybody? Have you guys given him an estimate, water sewer lines?
We haven't yet.
Okay. All right, so that concludes item number 3 on our agenda regarding Mitchell. Item number 4 then is the Shell Building Activity Update. Just as a reminder, we had been in conversations with a supplier to Lehigh, which I would call the equivalent of a Tier 1 supplier, who is very interested in having a facility located close to the Lehigh, Heidelberg plant so they can provide materials. They had been told by Heidelberg that a better option than our Shell building would be to actually build their facility on Heidelberg's own property. And so they have left the conversation regarding acquisition of the Shell building, but they had put me in contact with one of their suppliers, so someone to be the equivalent of a Tier 2 supplier to Heidelberg. And I had one conversation between the Tier 1, the Tier 2, and myself, just to be acquainted. I reached out to the Tier 2 folks this week on Monday, sent them an email and said, hey, we're going to have a conversation about the Shell building. We're going to be approaching a time when we are going to need to do something on the Shell building, whether that is sell it or issue bonds so that we take outright ownership of it. I did not hear back from them yet, so I'll pursue them again next week, but it's getting to be the holidays, so I don't know how quickly I'll hear from them. And I just can't guess what their timing would be for needing acquisition of the building. We are continuing to, well, now I guess it's Dan. Radius is no longer doing the Lido business in Lawrence County, but I presume the building is still being submitted to requests for proposals that come in from the state or other sources, folks looking for a building of this size. So we want to keep putting it out there on the market, see if we can find a buyer, whether it's Heidelberg related or something else. At this point, there's no real update other than I would say next month, if we haven't moved the building, we probably do need to pull the trigger on starting the process of issuing bonds. I think we've got until March to take outright ownership of the building from Greg Mart's development. So he's, in the meantime, we're still paying interest payments on his construction loan, so that keeps our costs down for acquisition. But that's going to run out, and so we're going to need to acquire the building and own it. We have started paying an electric bill. There is electric service to the building now, so we're going to run some minimal operational maintenance expenses in the meantime while we own the building. So,
We have not, I mean, the building is complete, I guess, but we have not approved the completion, right?
that's true. I haven't
Okay.
gone through and made sure that the punch list is complete, so we can go through.
Actually, it's not until we stripe it, that's still one piece of the structure that's not done yet.
I had a conversation with them. I told them tentatively that we could save $20,000 or $25,000 by not
I
putting
was thinking 20.
that stripe around the building. And at that point, when I thought we had a buyer, I was willing to do away with the striping cost. If you guys want to put that stripe back on it, we can do that, though.
I don't know, because
Well, I don't think it's necessary to know today. I think that's
Yeah,
prior to what we decide is the final deal.
okay.
Just my opinion. I talked with Susan,
Mhm.
and I actually told her that you were you may have talked to her too, I think, but she actually says that they do that. They purchase buildings and then find tenants.
Okay.
And I mean, whether or not they do, but I talked to her at conference, and of course they're a big outfit. Myers,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows them, but Susan Reed's her name, and I assume she talked to you at Radius.
Yeah, we talked a little bit.
Well,
I can contact her.
yeah, you might inquire. You said you had another meeting with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Maybe it'll work out then.
All right. I'll contact her. I can follow up with Agricel, the company that we would have used as a third-party purchaser if there had been a lease signed on the building. They typically don't buy vacant buildings. They typically only buy them when there is a lease or revenue source in place, but I can check with them too.
I got another question then. What are we valuing our property at?
Wally, I think we said 5.7 million.
5.7.
Yeah, I think our contract with Greg Martz is 5.3 or 5.4. And so I wanted to build in a little bit of a margin there, so we could recapture some of our costs, with
Yeah,
accountants and attorneys and everything. Honestly, given where steel prices have gone, I think, my gut tells me the 5.7 is a very reasonable price. We probably got a little wiggle room upwards if we wanted to do that. But for purposes of acquisition of the building from Mars, we're locked in at, I think it's 5.3.
yeah, okay.
Jeff, if we get an offer on the building, do we then have to get appraisals to determine?
I can't completely answer that question, Jack. That would be a good attorney question. My sense is, my recollection is that redevelopment commissions are given a lot of wiggle room compared to other local government entities and how they handle
Okay.
acquisition and sales of properties. It's set up, from what I remember, the law is set up so that, and I'm going to talk about us in particular, but a redevelopment commission, if they wanted to acquire a property, they would get their two appraisals, but they could choose to pay above appraised value because they need it for economic development purposes. And if they wanted to sell it, they could sell it for below appraisal cost as an incentive to bring a company in. So my belief is that we've got a lot of wiggle room on how we price it.
Good.
And so then it becomes for us, it's we weigh, if we sell it to a company, what kind of investment are they bringing in? What kind of jobs are they bringing in? What kind of a company are they? Are they someone who's going to diversify the industrial base at Mitchell? Or are they going to be a good supply chain company to Heidelberg, for instance? Those are the kinds of things we can weigh in deciding what price we want to set to make sure we secure what we think is the right tenant for that building. And I'm not a lawyer, I don't even play one on TV, but that's what I remember from studying TIF laws.
Okay.
Any questions on the shell building activity? Any other comments? Okay, so I'll follow up with Susan, I'll follow up with Agricel. I'll follow up with Greg Martz too. All right, last item on our agenda is other business. This is here as a catch-all. I don't have any other business in mind, but I'd welcome members to the Redevelopment Commission. If you've got anything you want us to discuss, let us know. And if not, then we'll see if our august esteemed members of the audience, public here, want to say anything. Anyone got anything for the good of the cause?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, that's where we're going. All right, well then, this concludes the final meeting of the Lawrence County Redevelopment Commission for the year 2025. It's been a good year. I appreciate working with all of you. Jack, welcome to joining us. You've still got your initiation rights to go through, but we'll take care of those in the new year. And
It's been an interesting process.
lots to learn, isn't there? So, okay. We'll call this meeting adjourned. Thanks for being here, everyone. See you in the new year.